And Ares was the one that caused the scout ship to crash.
Yeah.
And be in the ice.
What?
Yeah. He killed his crew.
Yeah.
Why
So
you can't just throw that out there.
you can.
That's not. That
I just
requires
did.
some follow-up.
Yeah. Yeah.
The more I think about it, the worse it becomes. So recently, this weekend maybe, Zack Snyder was fielding some questions from the fans, right? And he was talking about Wonder Woman, or at least the parts of the sit down that he was essentially having that I saw had to do with Wonder Woman. And he's talking about how he had this movie panned out called, I think it was like Wonder Woman 1854, where instantaneously better than Wonder Woman 2. Essentially Wonder Woman in her quest to find Ares. So it's a story that happens before the first Wonder Woman movie, but it basically sets up essentially how Diana was supposed to eventually meet Steve Trevor, or it's kind of murky the way in which he breaks it down, because it sounds as though it's basically a plot for a whole different movie, where essentially Diana leaves Themyscira, she travels around the world, she meets all of these fantastic warriors from all of these different civilizations left and right, samurai, a Sikh warrior, a Greek warrior, Roman gladiators, things along those lines, and she brings them all together as like a super team, and they basically team up to defeat the god of war, who has been creating war and mischief in all of these different locations around the world. Instantaneously better than Wonder Woman 1984. Now, that sounded great. I was on board for that. I was like, man, that sounds like a really, really great movie. Wonder Woman going around recruiting the most powerful warriors ever, going out and kicking the God of War's ass to basically stop him from essentially creating like World War I, basically, or attempting to stop him and then failing, and then catching up with him later around the time of World War I. It's basically the story that was supposed to revolve around the picture that Lex Luthor had in his vault of Diana. Great. And I was on board. I was like, man, that sounds like that sounds like money. That sounds like heat. I'd be there for that movie. And then he delves into like this origin for Wonder Woman, and an origin for Zeus, and an origin for Ares.
A Kryptonian, and that so that Wonder Woman's powers. Anyway, you can sort of see where that's going, because the whole thing of like whether or not magic and the gods, there's a version where like, okay, that's cool, I guess, but like there's also the more sort of scientific kind of, you have like a mythology built up of like where do gods come from, like what is that about, and so anyway, we had played around with that quite a bit.
And then all of a sudden, I was instantaneously reminded that Zack Snyder has no idea what the fuck to do with DC characters. He cannot be allowed to write or change the lore of a DC character, because not only does he get it insanely fucking wrong, he completely misses the mark. And what I mean by that is his basically storyboard for the Amazons, but then also for the Greek gods, where basically the Greek gods weren't supposed to be gods, they were supposed to be Kryptonians, where Zeus was a Kryptonian and Ares was a Kryptonian, and Ares crashes the scout ship on Earth and he kills his entire crew, and Zeus and the other Kryptonians basically arrive on Earth to stop Ares, and then they intermingle with the Amazons, and then they have like half-breed children, and then they use this army to go up against Ares's army, and then they kind of beat Ares, but then Ares kills all of them. And what look, the whole idea of him basically saying, you know, well, you know, I had this really great mythos that I wanted to create around Wonder Woman is lost upon me, because Wonder Woman as a character has fantastic mythos. The idea that her civilization, Themyscira, were these proud warriors of the gods, that Zeus and Ares and Hera and all of these other people, and then the curse technically placed upon the Amazons by Hera had to do with Queen Hippolyta sleeping with Zeus and having Diana like as another one of Zeus's like illegitimate children. But then the thousands of years that they were basically slaves slash toys for Ares, where he could do whatever he essentially wanted with them, and there was no way for them to escape essentially his grasp until they rebelled and were able to basically banish him from Themyscira. So much deep lore. The connections that these women warriors have with these female entities in Greek mythology, such as Medusa and the Furies and things along those lines, and the Fates. Such deep lore. And you're telling me all of this rich lore that's right there for the taking, that at any point in time you can pick up and you can use any part of it. You decided, you know what? None of this lore is really good. So I'm gonna slide that to the side, and all of the Amazons are now Kryptonians. You're a Kryptonian, you're a Kryptonian. What did Vegeta say in Dragon Ball Z? It's a Super Saiyan bargain sale. It is a Kryptonian bargain sale. What is going on? What is going on? And the thing that baffles me the most is the fact that the crowd is sitting there clapping for this. What are you clapping for? It sounds absolutely bad. Like, what are you clapping for this direction? This is confirmation that I've said multiple times that the Zack Snyder diehard fans are not actual comic book fans, because any comic book fan who sat down and heard Zack Snyder say that he had an entire mythos that he wanted to create in regards to Wonder Woman would instantaneously get pissed off. Like, that is the equivalent of another story that he never put to light, which was basically turning Superman into a cuck, where he's like, you know, oh, well, you know, Superman died, and Bruce Wayne and Lois Lane, they're gonna end up having sex, and then they're gonna have a kid, and then Batman is gonna sacrifice himself because he loves Lois Lane, and then Superman is going to raise Batman's son as the new Batman. Why? For what reason are we going in this direction? Because if you're also telling me that on your storyboard you literally had up in the corner Zeus and Ares are Kryptonians, they came to Earth, had half-breed kids, and those half-breed kids are Amazons, why can't Superman, who, I'd like to remind you that inside of Superman, established in Man of Steel, is the Kryptonian Index, which has the DNA sequence of every single Kryptonian that could and has ever existed. How is it that Superman is unable to have a child with Lois Lane when we've seen in Batman versus Superman that he was clapping them cheeks every single time he got inside that house? Come on. Stop playing with me, Zach. Stop. No, I'm not gonna let him slide. Like, you're not finna slide this easy. I understand you like to feed into the hype that these Snyderverse bottom feeding trolls like to throw in your direction, but at some point in time, a fan of the source material or just a fan of a decent adaptation, fans in general, somebody has to look up and go, you know what you're selling sounds like shit. And I don't think you're the best person for this. Visual storytelling, Snyder's the man. He can put some music and some visuals together that will have you sitting there with your mouth open going, this is the greatest thing that I have ever seen. Storytelling, Zack Snyder doesn't have a fucking clue. And I am one of those people that while I'm not happy that I'm getting another reset, that in my generation I'm not seeing one vision to its full potential and that vision has already been erased and being replaced by something else, I am happy that so far everything that I'm seeing going forward that's going to be in this DCU that James Gunn is setting up looks to be good. It looks to be good. James Gunn was online yesterday talking about Superman, where he was like, Superman has to embody like 3 sides of a pyramid, right? There has to be the side of him that gives you hope. There also has to be the side of him that you know in your heart that dude gives the best hugs you'll ever get. But then there also has to be a third side to him, which is basically he's a man not to be fucked with. That is Superman to a T. Like Zack Snyder wasn't understanding that in regards to Superman. But so far James Gunn is understanding that, and I'm 100% there for it. Thank God. Zack Snyder is off and he's doing his own thing over there on Netflix with like Rebel Moon, and I can't wait for that to come out. But thank God we never got any of this, with the exception of the Wonder Woman running around the planet collecting like the greatest fucking warriors to deal with like a threat in her hut for Ares. I would want to see that movie, but everything else is garbage, and I don't want any of it in any way, shape, or form. Like, I'm happy that he's no longer on this. Like, the Snyderverse is dead. Flash is going to put it in the ground, and then we're going to move on to something new, and I can only hope that that something new is going to be fantastic. But yeah, let me know what you think. Comment down below what you think about like Amazons being Kryptonian children and Zeus and Ares not being magical gods or deities, but Kryptonians themselves. Like, let me know what you think. Like, is it goofy? I think it's goofy. Comment down below, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.